On a warm Friday evening, the entrance of the luxurious Grand Royal Hotel looked like a scene from a Hollywood movie. Million-dollar sports cars rolled onto the red carpet one after another. Camera flashes lit up the night as celebrities, business leaders, and wealthy investors stepped out of their luxury vehicles. Everyone was dressed to impress. Every smile looked perfect. Every handshake carried the promise of another million-dollar deal. Standing quietly near the entrance was a young valet named Marcus. He wore a clean navy blue uniform with polished black shoes and white gloves. Unlike everyone else, Marcus never tried to attract attention. He simply smiled, opened car doors, collected keys, and wished every guest a wonderful evening. Most people barely noticed him. To them, he was invisible. At exactly 7:15 p.m., a brand-new black Rolls-Royce Phantom stopped at the entrance. Before Marcus could reach the driver's door, a tall businessman stepped out. His expensive watch sparkled under the hotel lights. Without saying hello, he looked Marcus up and down with disgust. "Don't touch my car." Marcus politely stepped back. "I'm sorry, sir. I was only trying to help." The businessman laughed loudly. You couldn't afford one tire on this car." Several nearby guests heard the comment and started laughing. One woman covered her mouth as she whispered, "Some people should know their place." Another guest quietly pulled out his phone and began recording. Marcus lowered his eyes. He had experienced insults before, but tonight, something felt different. He looked toward the hotel entrance, almost as if he was waiting for someone. Exactly 5 minutes later, a black SUV slowly entered the hotel driveway. Marcus smiled for the first time that evening. The businessman noticed it too. He had no idea that the next few minutes were about to destroy everything he believed about power, status, and respect. The black SUV came to a smooth stop just a few feet from the hotel entrance. Unlike the luxury cars before it, there were no flashing cameras, no loud music, no bodyguards making a scene, just silence. The businessman smirked. "Probably another delivery," he muttered. Marcus walked toward the SUV with the same calm expression he had shown every guest that evening. He reached for the rear passenger door. Before he could open it, a deep voice came from inside. "Good evening, Marcus." Marcus smiled. "Good evening, sir." The businessman frowned. "Wait, they know each other?" The SUV door slowly opened. A man in a perfectly tailored charcoal suit stepped out. He looked to be in his early 40s. Confident, calm. His presence alone seemed to change the atmosphere. Two hotel managers rushed outside the moment they saw him, their faces instantly filled with nervous respect. "Good evening, Mr. Anderson. We've been waiting for you." The businessman's smile disappeared. He whispered to his wife, "Who's this guy?" Neither of them had ever seen him before, but everyone else suddenly looked nervous. Mr. Anderson didn't answer the managers. Instead, he looked directly at Marcus. "How has your evening been?" Marcus forced a small smile. "Everything's fine, sir." Mr. Anderson glanced at the red stain on Marcus's white gloves, then at the businessman standing nearby. He noticed the guests holding up their phones. He noticed the uncomfortable silence, and he noticed the fear slowly appearing on the hotel manager's face. Without raising his voice, he asked one simple question. "Would someone like to explain what happened here?" No one spoke. Not a single person. The businessman laughed awkwardly. "It was nothing. Just a valet who forgot his place." Several guests nodded. Someone even chuckled. Mr. Anderson remained completely expressionless. Then he turned toward Marcus again. "Did you forget your place? Or did someone else forget theirs?" Marcus stayed silent. He never pointed fingers, that he never complained. That silence told Mr. Anderson everything he needed to know. Mr. Anderson slowly reached into his jacket pocket. He pulled out a sleek black envelope embossed with the hotel's gold emblem. When the general manager saw it, the color drained from his face. He took one step backward, then another, because he knew exactly what was inside. And in that moment, the businessman realized this quiet evening was about to become the biggest mistake of his life. The entire entrance fell silent. Even the sound of the fountain outside the hotel seemed louder than the people standing there. Mr. Anderson held the black envelope in one hand. He looked at the general manager. "I asked a simple question. What happened to this young man?" The general manager swallowed hard. "Sir, it was just a misunderstanding." Mr. Anderson slowly shook his head. "No. A misunderstanding is when two people make a mistake. This looks like humiliation." The businessman stepped forward with a confident smile. Sir, with all due respect, he's only a valet. I simply reminded him not to touch my car. Several guests nodded in agreement. One woman even whispered, "Exactly." Mr. Anderson turned toward the businessman. "May I ask your name?" "Richard Collins." Richard proudly adjusted his expensive tie. "My company invests millions in luxury hotels." Mr. Anderson smiled politely. "I'm aware." Richard grinned. "Then you understand how important customers like me are." Mr. Anderson paused for a moment. Then he quietly replied, "I do. But I also understand something you don't." Richard's smile slowly disappeared. Mr. Anderson walked over to Marcus. He gently placed a hand on his shoulder. Then he faced everyone. "I visited this hotel 6 times in the last 3 months. Every single visit. I watched this young man. I never told him who I was. I never asked for special treatment. I simply observed. He treated every guest with respect. He helped elderly visitors without being asked. He returned a wallet containing thousands of dollars without taking a single cent. He stayed late to help his coworkers after his shift ended. And tonight, he was rewarded with insults." The crowd became completely silent. Several people slowly lowered their phones. Their smiles disappeared. The general manager looked down at the floor. Richard tried to laugh. "Sir, you're making this far bigger than it really is." It was just a few words. Mr. Anderson looked directly into Richard's eyes. "No. Words reveal character. And tonight, everyone here has revealed theirs." Richard's confidence began to crack. For the first time, he wasn't smiling. Then Mr. Anderson opened the black envelope. Inside was a single document. He handed it to the general manager. The manager read the first page. His hands immediately began to shake. He looked at Mr. Anderson, then at Marcus, then back at the document. His voice barely came out. "Sir, is this official?" Mr. Anderson nodded once. "It became official this morning." The manager closed his eyes for a second. When he opened them again, he turned toward Marcus with a look of complete respect. The guests watched in confusion. No one understood what was happening, but everyone could feel it. Something enormous was about to be revealed. The hotel entrance was so quiet that no one dared to whisper. Every eye was fixed on the document in the general manager's trembling hands. He slowly looked up. His voice shook. "Ladies and gentlemen, I believe everyone here deserves to know the truth." Richard folded his arms and laughed. "This is getting ridiculous. Just tell us what the paper says." The general manager took a deep breath. This morning, the Grand Royal Hotel was officially purchased. The crowd gasped. People looked at one another in disbelief. Richard frowned. "Purchased? By who?" The manager looked toward Mr. Anderson. "By Anderson International Holdings." A wave of whispers spread through the crowd. Everyone had heard of Anderson International. It owned luxury hotels, private airlines, banks, and real estate worth billions of dollars. Richard's confidence began to fade. He forced a smile. "Well, I'd like to congratulate the new owners." Mr. Anderson didn't smile. "I'm not the owner." Richard blinked. "What? I'm only the chief executive officer." The words hit the crowd like thunder. If he wasn't the owner, then who was? Everyone turned toward Marcus. Mr. Anderson slowly walked over to him. Without saying a word, he removed the white valet gloves from Marcus's hands. Then he faced the guests. "I'd like everyone to meet the newest shareholder of Anderson International, Marcus Williams." The crowd froze. Richard laughed nervously. "That's impossible. He's a valet." Mr. Anderson calmly replied. "He was a valet. This morning, Marcus became one of the youngest partners in our company. He accepted this job 3 months ago because I wanted every future executive in our company to understand one lesson. Respect is earned by character, not by expensive clothes." Marcus never interrupted. He simply stood quietly, exactly as he had all evening. Mr. Anderson continued. "Marcus passed every test. He never revealed his identity. He never abused his position. He never treated anyone differently. But tonight, you all failed the test." The silence became unbearable. Several guests quietly put their phones away. A woman who had laughed earlier lowered her head in shame. Richard looked around desperately. No one was laughing anymore. For the first time that night, he realized the man he had called just a valet was now one of the people who owned the very hotel he was standing in. No one spoke. The laughter that had filled the hotel entrance just minutes earlier had completely disappeared. Richard Collins looked at Marcus. then at Mr. Anderson, and finally at the hotel. Manager, this has to be some kind of joke. The general manager slowly shook his head. I wish it were. Richard's wife grabbed his arm. Richard, say something. For the first time in years, Richard had nothing to say. Mr. Anderson looked around at the crowd. I've spent 30 years building businesses. I've met kings, presidents, billionaires, and world-famous celebrities. But one thing has always been true. A person's real character appears when they believe no one important is watching. He paused. Tonight, we were watching. The guests lowered their eyes. Every phone that had been recording was now pointed toward the ground. Marcus finally spoke. His voice was calm. I never wanted anyone to lose their job. I only wanted to be treated with the same respect every human being deserves. Those simple words hit the crowd harder than any angry speech could have. A woman who had laughed at Marcus stepped forward. Her eyes filled with tears. I'm sorry. I judged you without knowing you. Marcus gave her a small nod. Thank you. Richard wasn't ready to admit defeat. He forced another smile. Marcus, I'm sure this whole thing is just a misunderstanding. If I offended you, I apologize. Marcus looked directly into Richard's eyes. For a few seconds, neither man spoke. Then Marcus quietly answered. You aren't apologizing because you respect me. You're apologizing because you finally know who I am. Richard's face turned pale. The crowd fell silent again. Everyone knew. Marcus was right. Mr. Anderson stepped forward. Our company has one rule that cannot be negotiated. If a business is built without respect, it will never have our partnership. He turned toward the general manager. Cancel every pending agreement with Collins Capital and remove them from tomorrow's investment summit. The general manager nodded immediately. Yes, sir. Richard's eyes widened. You can't do this. Those contracts are worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Mr. Anderson answered calmly. No, you did this. The moment you decided another human being was beneath you. Richard stood frozen. Everything he had worked for, everything he expected to gain that night, was slipping away, not because of one mistake, but because of the attitude behind it. Marcus looked at Richard one last time. Then he quietly walked toward the hotel entrance. He never celebrated. He never smiled with pride. He simply chose dignity. The same dignity he had carried from the beginning. Richard stood frozen. The luxury hotel entrance, once filled with laughter, had become completely silent. No one looked at Marcus anymore with pity. Now, they looked at him with respect. Mr. Anderson walked beside Marcus. Are you ready? Marcus smiled softly. I've been ready my whole life. The two men entered the ballroom together. Hundreds of executives immediately stood up. The room erupted into applause. Just minutes earlier, many of those same people had walked past Marcus without even making eye contact. Now, they were welcoming him as one of the company's newest partners. Marcus stepped onto the stage. He looked across the crowd. Then he saw Richard standing alone near the entrance. Defeated, embarrassed, broken. Marcus could have humiliated him. He could have taken revenge. Instead, he picked up the microphone. My father taught me something when I was a little boy. If someone disrespects you, don't become like them. Become better than them. The ballroom fell silent. Marcus continued. I don't want anyone fired because of what happened tonight. I don't want revenge. I want change. From this day forward, every employee in every hotel we own, from the valet, to the housekeeper, to the receptionist, will receive the same respect as every VIP guest. The audience rose to their feet. A standing ovation echoed through the ballroom. Some employees couldn't hold back their tears. Even the hotel manager wiped his eyes. Marcus stepped off the stage. As he walked toward the exit, Richard slowly approached him. This time, there was no arrogance, no pride, only regret. I'm truly sorry. I judged you by your uniform. Marcus looked at him for a moment. Then he extended his hand. I forgive you, but never forget. Respect should come before status, not after it. Richard shook his hand with tears in his eyes. That night, no one remembered the expensive cars, the designer suits, or the billion-dollar business deals. They remembered one simple lesson. The way you treat people will always reveal who you really are. Asterisk asterisk. Because true wealth isn't measured by money. It's measured by character.